Oh, come on, he's a miserable cocksucker fucking asshole. You hate him, admit it.
What up, heads? Welcome to the groundbreaking, diamond raining 17th motherfucking episode of The Beard Speaks. Got a very special guest today, someone who's been making 17 appearances throughout this fucking first half of the year on about 17 different podcasts and radio shows, a lot of them being episode number 17. I feel absolutely honored to have him on The Beard Speaks. We've known each other for upwards of 7-8 years now. We've talked on the phone several times. We've met in person several times, and he's put me on a very, very large amount of underground game. A damn near immortal in terms of years in the hip-hop game, and always 100% independent. Vocalist, lyricist, writer, filmmaker, composer, and behind-the-scenes power broker. Please welcome to The Beard Speaks from San Jose, California, Kung Fu Vampire. Welcome to the show, my man.
We just 17 and then beaming. Fuck them up, Chuck.
That's what I'm saying, man. Beard Speaks. When you heard I was starting the show, you immediately hit me up and requested episode 17. This has definitely been a long time coming.
Yeah, man. It's awesome. I just want to, reach out and touch the people as much as I can. And as I told you earlier, I'm an open book. You know what I mean? I got no real secrets, no drama, nothing like that going on in my life to whatever it means. You know what I mean? Everybody's got bad days, but here we are, baby.
Well, it looks like you having quite a sunny one out there in the Bay Area. That's real nice to see. You getting ready to start the push for the upcoming release come dawn, ain't that correct?
Yeah, man. This right now I'm focused on the tour that starts here less than a week, next Thursday. And this Come Dawn album is a totally different concept. It's a lot different than anything I've ever done. One producer for the whole record, and it's an honor and like ode to kind of a throwback to the late 70s, 80s. It's a very neon, new wave funk record, and anybody who's a true fan of what I do knows that my style has always been all over the place. So this will just be another addition to that.
Oh, and we're definitely going to talk about your changes in styles and your very distinct blending of sounds that you've had for literally damn near 21 years as Kung Fu Vampire. With all the immortals, man, we know that there's history before that, before the vampire was bitten, before you became this other entity. And I know that there was once a 5-year-old future bloodsucker out there in the Bay who wanted to be a b-boy. What were your first musical experiences and that drew you into that very, very specific activity? An activity my folks wouldn't even fucking let me partake in for fear of breaking my full neck.
Yeah, well, out here, I lived in a bad neighborhood at the time. I lived in these apartments that were just bad. It was like there was 2 apartment complexes next to each other, but out of that came a lot of culture. And so there was linoleum everywhere, breaking, going down everywhere. And I just immediately, from the time I could remember, like my earliest memory, a lot of people are like, oh, I remember earliest memory, this, that. My earliest memory had to do with hip hop. It had to do with breakdancing, and I had the TI sweats. I was breakdancing to NWA and then the older stuff, And at 5 years old, man, it was like I saw these people breakdancing that were just killing it. I instantly just got into it. My buddy, I had like a bunch of black homies that lived in the apartments. They were already up on hip hop game before me. They were older. They were all about it, man. And they introduced me to breaking, popping, locking, and then it was the movies. It was Electric Boogaloo. It was Beat Street, and then I ended up like I think 6 years old, maybe in a competition across the street. There was a Wiener Schnitzel restaurant, and in the parking lot they had a huge breakdancing competition. I ended up in it. Somewhere there's a picture of me as a tiny little tan kid with TI sweats holding up a trophy, and everybody's towering over me. I'm already a short guy, but at 5 years old, being the youngest one in it, I was like, who is this little kid? I was like the spectacle of it, and it's been hip hop ever since, and music. I've been a big metalhead, a big more of an industrial fan, more of an electronica fan, and I'm a big trip hop. I like hip hop, trip hop stuff, non-vocalist stuff, female singers, and so ever since then, man, it's just been music. And prior to 2001, I was doing hip hop under a different alias, but yeah, man, it's crazy.
What was your go-to move? What was 6-year-old KFV's go-to move? You head spinning, you
I was
windmilling.
head spinning, continuation. I was crabbing. Is it crab walking? I was crab walking, continuations. I was doing all that. And then I later on in life, early on in life, became a competitive gymnast. I was a ring specialist. I was all like a strength dude. And
I
so
had heard
I was,
stories of your early stage performances, including backflips, and that really I was wondering if
yes.
that had been an extension of the b-boying, but I was unfamiliar with your gymnast background. Did you compete? What was your chosen discipline? Rings, bars,
I was a ring specialist, but you had to do everything. So you had to do
all
all
around.
6 events. Yeah. Now, after I left the sport many years later, you can actually compete as an individual in the Olympics. And they weren't doing that before.
You were doing the whole thing, the iron cross and the flips and the upside down on the rings and all that nastiness.
It actually brewed into something much bigger. You can still see me, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, you're good.
And I ended up, by the time I was a senior in high school, I ended up winning the USA National Championships on rings. I was #1 in the U.S. and made the junior Olympic team.
Wow.
And I just squeaked into the Olympic team. I think they took the top 8, and I was #6 all around. I was terrible at high bar, and so that kept me back from winning the whole thing. But yeah, I was first on rings, third on pommel horse, third on parallel bars. I went to college and they dropped the program.
That shows a lot of discipline, though. That sort of a sport isn't something that you enter into lightly. It's not like golf or fucking frisbee. You feel me? So I can definitely see where your work ethic, your work ethic must spring from all that, because that must. I mean, I'm picturing a Russian guy yelling at you that you're never going to be anything.
Zane was kind of a Russian. Yeah, that's funny you said that. My coach is Russian, even though he's an American. His parents are Russian, and he was exactly that. He was an absolute beast. I'll tell you this one thing that did occur is that me and the 2 other gymnasts that we had rode with this coach through different gyms, we were the only gymnasts that were like yoked out like bodybuilders for the most part, especially one of the guys. And we were the only thing I had ever heard of in that level of gymnastics where coaches and the Gymnastics Federation were accusing the coach of giving us steroids. You remember that? It was so weird. Like it was, and we're like, and he's like, they're kids. What do you mean steroids? They're like, there's no way that they're this buffed. He's like, no, we work hard. You know what I mean? Like we're working hard, because it was so weird to show up to an event as like a 15-year-old kid and hear the little rumors. And it's not really a sport that has rumors. It's a very respectful, disciplined, hard sport. So to hear that kind of stuff was like, wow, really? They're accusing us. It was almost like they didn't use the word hater, but it's almost like these guys are just hating because we were killing it.
Now they're testing the kids for that shit and human growth hormone and various other substances. I mean, even at the youth level for sure these days. So trust me, it might have been foreign to you, but it definitely isn't foreign to that sport, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think at the time it was a crazy idea. I think it was ludicrous for people to even, in the mid 90s or whatever it was, to be accusing a coach of giving their kids steroids. Like, it wasn't that serious. We were just in the gym putting in work,
So, you're doing that. You're doing the b-boy thing. You're on the come up as a human and not even so much as a hip hop artist. I've heard you say that you've listened to Kool Moe Dee, Houdini, Curtis Blow, and then, Anthrax, Metallica, and some Doors as well. I know you weren't out there doing head spins in the get-ups that you rock now, outfit-wise. Who turned you on and put you on to the industrial and gothic styles that have shown through in your future work?
It was like a combination of 2 people, man. It was like my aunt and my mom at the same time. And then later on, some friends of mine kind of turned me on more to the electro, you know what I mean? More to the electronica. And they were all about stuff. I had never met a single soul on the planet who was listening to Front 242 and Ministry and Skinny Puppy. And my homie Justin at the time was all about it and introduced me. And I had already been somebody that had been to Fear Factory concerts as a kid, like a 9-year-old. I had been there, and I actually saw Metallica in a nightclub as like a 8-year-old. I got to see them in a 500-person nightclub with my aunt in San Francisco. I don't know the era. I think that they were already huge, but just did, Metallica's always been down to occasionally do something a little more homegrown. And so I got lucky with that and was able to get in. And yeah, it's been crazy, man. I have just a lot of rich history, and I think that's what's made Kung Fu Vampire so diverse and so different, you know, and so interesting. It's just industrial, 9 Inch Nails meets NWA meets Busta Rhymes. Those were kind of, you know, things to me, like the Far Side, you know, Digital Underground and the Far Side are two groups I constantly forget about because they're not still doing stuff. You know what I mean?
Didn't you do a show with DU, as a matter of fact? I mean, Digital is one of my faves of all time. So to hear you actually open for Digital, I was quite impressed by that.
They're probably one of my biggest influences, honestly. Like, and it sucks that I forget about them in interviews when people ask me what I was listening to, but they were definitely the top of that list. And now, I was just recently informed that I've seen them. We've played with them twice by an old band member chick of mine. I didn't know we had played with them twice. And then I found out that it actually was 3 times. We started looking at our history, and we actually had performed with them 3 times, man. So it was great. They're awesome. We got to play with them what I feel like was a peak.
I was going to ask, which era are we talking? Are we talking about Shock and Tupac era? Are we talking about same song era?
That was so much before my time.
Okay.
This was 2004, 5, 6.
All right.
And they were rocking with this huge funk band. I mean, it was just ridiculous. Just picture every Digital Underground with an 8-person funk band of like buffed dudes sweating it out there, like guitar, bass, keys, like just the whole 9. It was great.
Well, definitely. I mean, that to me conjures images of Parliament, which I know is another one of your heavy influences.
Huge, especially on this new album. Wow. You know what I mean? Good. Glad you brought that up.
And the fact that, I mean,
hip hop Parliament, you know.
I mean, I was going to bring it up later, but you had a 10-piece band at one point. Isn't that at the number at which you started?
That was the era right there. So 05, 6, 7, 8 was the 10-piece, sometimes 8-piece, you know, it was just, there's 10 of us, you know, and it was mostly girls. It was 6 girls, 4 guys. And we had every angle covered, man. And a lot of people like in the underground and Juggalo world don't understand why what we're doing is so much different, so much more unique, and why I come from something so different was conducting a 10-piece band and working on cello parts and working on violin parts, which actually in turn took away from my lyricism for a few years, which is why, you know, it could go into this conversation later or another time. But basically, once we started touring, once we got the call from Twisted to come do that Slaughterhouse tour in December of 2009, the tour was February, 2010. Apart immediately. They're like, yo, I can't leave. I'm a school teacher. Like some of the girls in the band were very accomplished. You know what I mean? So they were like, yo, I'm good. I can't go. And so that we did end up bringing them on about 8 dates, like the West Coast dates. 3 vehicles, 17 people, the band, and 6 staff. And it was ridiculous. It
sounds a lot to me like the mothership. You get Parliament, they bring out the mothership. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. In a different world, if we had a Travis O'Guin behind us, or something, sure, we'd be murdering everybody right now. You would have brought me into this Juggalo world in 2003 with my 10-piece band and a Travis O'Guin. I'd be the guy that you'd be talking about right now. I'd be the Tech 9. I'd be the Twisted. I'd be the Yellow Wolf. That's just a fact.
It'd be a rap.
It'd be a rap. It'd be over. The time period that I came into the Juggalo world was not the best. I feel bad for people coming into it now because it's even way worse. I at least have my own solid fan base that's like, it's a support group that's kind of, it's Juggalos, but then there's the Kung Fu Vampire ones because it's been so many years that have like taken to me as like, yo, this is the guy that I support the most. This is the guy, and these are Juggalos that are like, yo, I'm a Kung Fu Vampire fan. They got the tattoo on the neck, so I'm blessed. But it's funny. I was hanging out with One Ton from Potluck a couple weeks ago, and we went to Korean food and hit the club to see Blaze. We actually went and saw Blaze and them, and he said it to me before, but he reminded me again. He's like, bro, he's like, if you would have got introduced to the Juggalos, talking about Potluck, he's like, it would have been a wrap. He's like, you're exactly what they wanted and needed. And yeah, it just, you know, why look back at the past? But it's just an interesting thing. And I think that part of that is because it goes with a conversation I had with Joe, Violent J, in is Juggalos, I don't care what, there is a percentage of people who are followers that are just like anything psychopathic, I'm down. It doesn't, like, they try to justify garbage that the label
I call them the
stuff.
17. They're the 17%.
Like it's a bike gang, the one percenters. But nah, you know, it's one of those things. There's a lot of them that try to justify anything gets signed to psychopathic. I actually had someone today tell me online, psychopathic and MNE don't want you. You don't deserve a contract. I'm thinking to myself, bro, why is that the end all be all for you? Like, why do you think that is the level of success? The point I'm trying to make is, even Violent J said this was actually something very introspective that I liked that Jay said. We had a like half-hour conversation, private one-on-one in a bar in Canada. How random is that? But he said, you know, the Juggalos don't actually, unless you're on psychopathic, they don't like artists who are trying to sell the Juggalo thing. They don't like people who are
pandering.
Trying to Juggalo rap. They don't like the panderers, and I'm the opposite of that.
It's pandering.
It's funny, once in a blue moon person that's like, oh, you just don't want to lose your Juggalo fan base. I'm like, bro, do you realize how many non-Juggalo fans I've lost by aligning myself with the Juggalo fan base? That's an insult to me to say something like that, to say, you know, that I'm pandering to Juggalos. Do people even realize that the very first tour I did with Twisted, I had already been painting, didn't know there was Juggalos, didn't know about any of that. That's been proven. We've talked about it. I didn't know anything about that. I came out on stage in Buffalo. The entire crowd was painted. I was blown away. I didn't know.
I was going to bring that up later, but you took the paint off out of respect for the culture, and I didn't know that.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for doing your research. I literally never painted again.
And that was on that first, that was a couple shows into that first Slaughterhouse tour with Twisted.
Yes, but I did paint the whole Twisted tour because that's what I was doing. I had already been doing it.
So you didn't change it once it was over. Once it was over, it was over.
The Dead for Life tour, I was still bald with the goatee, no paint. Contacts, still wore those. You know what I mean? I stopped painting. And it was like, I was painting because I didn't think there was other that. And obviously I'd heard of ICP, but that to me wasn't even rap. Like, I'm just so far removed from the Juggalo culture that to me, I didn't think of that as rap. To me, that was like a rock rap band from the 90s. You get what I'm saying? Like, I hadn't.
Exactly.
We're in the West Coast, bro. We don't have stadium with 3,000 Juggalos at it. We don't have Juggalo shows here, bro. I mean, any Juggalos on the West Coast listening, you already know I know every single one of you. We're all friends. That's how few of us there is that are in the scene.
Exactly.
So, you know,
exactly.
I'm not lying when I say it. If there is Juggalos here, there's 1.2 million just in San Jose. I bet there's 100 Juggalos.
Total.
100, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a few more. But point being is, I never saw it. I was never exposed to that. So once I went out there, I said, you know what? This is their thing. Do their thing. I'm kind of shocked. And I'm just going to show people that I can off whether I'm painted or not. And I did that, and I proved that immediately. And I love it. I still wouldn't mind painting. A lot of the reasons I stopped painting too is because I'd rather hang out with the fans.
That's the other thing I had heard, that it took you almost an hour to get ready, a half hour to get unready, and that's 90 minutes you could be fucking around with the fans and making personal connections.
And I didn't have a tour bus, so I'm doing that in a van in 19-degree weather, standing on ice in Pittsburgh. You know, that's not fun, bro.
No, that's not fun at all.
I don't care how much into this thing. That's a level of it that for anybody is a nightmare. You know, you almost want to cry. You're taking contacts out, your hands are frozen. You're trying to get paint off your face. You got wet. You got baby wipes going on your face out in the 19-degree weather. It's not what people think. Now, if I had a tour bus, that wouldn't affect it. I'd just get on the bus, do my thing. You know what I mean? But we were grinding it out and trying to get our money back and our investment back, and we weren't about to spend that on getting fancy hotels every single night. So,
well, before even all that, I hate to play Ghost of Christmas Past, but August 11th, 1999, a group called LSP released an album called The Antidote, featuring a man named Al Mind. Am I saying that right? Al Mind?
Al Mind, like Universe Al Mind, like all mind,
AI.
universal
I
mind.
saw
We were kind of,
AI
that
at the
was our thing, is
beginning.
that we were a universal mind.
So who is Al Mind?
Yeah, so that I was one of four in that group. I was basically, we
Oh,
were
but
we
that
were at
wasn't
high school.
you.
That was
I
the high
thought
school
I
group.
assumed the group was called LSP and that you were Al Mind
Yeah,
in the
Al Mind
in
was my for a little while.
that was your alias. Because
Yep.
trust me, I checked out a little bit of the antidote.
The group was LS.
All right, so what led you to that first project and getting together with these guys and putting together? I mean, I checked it out. It's spacey as fuck. I mean, from the lyrics to the production, songs like Screws Loose, Levitating Space Portal, Playing with the Galaxy, and Pods of the Gods. What position
Yeah,
did you
man.
play in this galactic fucking situation you had? As far as, did you do production? Were you strictly a lyricist at the time?
I was both. I was basically co-production, lyricist, and I ran the band. And then the other three guys, they did lyricism, and two of them did the rest of the production. And I was still honing my production skills at that time, but it was just, it's a project that was dear to us because we'd worked on it a long time to
it's
get to that.
it's super spacey. You can tell it's a rough project, but it is certainly got a very interesting sound. And for anybody who knows your sound now, it's not a surprising prequel to what you became because of just the hip hop. I mean, it was overwhelmingly hip hop, but it didn't at first glance or sound like hip hop.
Yeah, and I that's why you always see me like kind of saying, "Hey, man, I don't associate my music with being like horrorcore or these other names people have for it." Is because I feel like I was like dark trip hop, this electro spacey hip hop thing, and I just kind of always gravitated towards the big horns and these big like bum 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 bum. I just liked that dark gothic sound. So you take a trip hop group and you take a guy who's starting to get really excited about Nine Inch Nails and industrial music, and then you've got our project. You know what I mean? You got LSP. You end up making Kung Fu Vampire, and I kind of, I'm kind of the dark child of that project. You know what I mean?
And you
And
progressed and actually put out a second LSP project that was mostly you as Al Mind, called Spacebar. Now
yes, and
I found two different covers for this album. One of them says Al Mind and the other says Kung Fu Vampire. One being a blue cover, one being purple. Was there a re-release of this album under Kung Fu Vampire name?
so the
Or
album has never been changed audio wise. The only thing that's been changed is the color of the cover and slapping Kung Fu Vampire on it. At the time, I kind of got ditched by my guys for different reasons. They just didn't have the same ambition I had. They had different plans in life, which they were having kids and uh, just didn't have that gymnastics weightlifting discipline that I had, that I grew up with. You know what I mean? And we're just cut from different cloths, me and those guys. You know what I mean? And doesn't mean I'm better than them or anything. They just didn't want to work hard like I did. They didn't take it as serious, and I still wanted to push the LSP brand. So when that album was supposed to be a group project, I ended up being me and the producer alone in the studio. Nobody in the band was actually there for me. They were flaking on studio sessions and things of that nature. And I just was like, yo, I'm not going to call it something else. I'm LSP. Like me, like anything I do is LSP. So they are featured on a couple tracks on the album. They may have produced one track on there, but just like all the other features and producers on there, they're on there the same. So it really was my first solo project as a kid. I was a kid when I made that record, and I wanted to make sure fans and all my fans nowadays, because back then we didn't have like a diehard fan base. It was very culty and local. I want to make sure that, Juggalo 95678 understands that, there's old stuff of Kung Fu. You can hear him as a teenager.
yeah, if you want to go out there and you want to search out, I'll make
You
sure
know
I
what I
put the
mean?
links. I'll make sure I put the links in the description. But I actually checked out quite a few of the LSP tracks last night on Spotify from both the Antidote as well as Spacebar. And that's kind of how I put together who you were in that group and knew to call you Al Mind. Now,
Yeah, yeah.
these were they seem to me to be psychedelic albums almost. I mean, I called them spacey, but they're almost psychedelic. Now, at the time, we know that you never really talk much about your cannabis use as far as in your music, but at the time, were you experimenting with any psychedelics? Because this shit to me sounded like beanbag music. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It was we were doing all kinds of things, man. You know, there was mushrooms involved and acid and things like that.
Well,
For sure.
I mean, most good,
Obviously.
a lot of stuff. I mean, yeah, go check it out. All you heads out there, if you want to hear the old prior to the vampire, make sure you go in and checking that shit out on Spotify. I'll make sure I put the links down there. Now,
Yeah, I didn't put Antidote under Kung Fu Vampire because it's not Kung Fu Vampire, first of all. And then second of all, the Spacebar album, I felt like I'd be doing the community an injustice because none of that stuff's going to ever get heard. So I released it digitally under Kung Fu Vampire, and this way, the stuff from my past, and nobody would have found it otherwise. So I'm glad I made that move, you know?
well, our mutual friend, Mr. Gray, had actually given me a little whisper about another alias, and I'm wondering, where does Six Pack fit in all this spacey shit?
My rap name before Almind. Almind was short-lived. So I kind of had both rap names at the same time. As a kid, like going back to that gymnastics weightlifting thing, we were shredded. You know what I mean? Just ripped. And I had people like in high school, I just had like a six-pack that was just crazy. So naturally, that was the nickname. You know what I mean? I wasn't drinking, eating shitty food, just working out like a maniac.
Did you ever find out what happened to the music teacher that almost got a drumstick upside the head? I don't know, maybe if you want to elaborate for the heads out there who may not have heard this story.
I thought she got fired or transferred. I don't want to
let the heads know what I'm talking about though. Let them know what I'm talking about a little bit.
In high school, freshman year, very early on in the year, I was being mistreated by the teacher because I was a hip hop head, because I looked gangster, because I was a competitive gymnast, and they weren't. She wasn't respecting my professional sports after school, and she wanted me to be at every music thing, and I couldn't make it, and she got a grudge on me real quick, and just was always outing me, picking on me in class. You know what I mean? And my parents had my back because they knew how much more serious gymnastics was. Just dope. I was a heavy, serious competitor. You know what I mean? And I couldn't make these music events. So basically, man, I was playing a hip hop beat on drums. I was a drummer in the school band, trying to be, and I kept adding a little swag to it, adding a little, straight out of Compton drum beat to things and whatever I was into at the time. A little Far Side on the drums. She wasn't feeling it and she kept yelling at me and trying to embarrass me. And I got up, I think just in a fit of rage, and threw the drumsticks at her face from all the way across the room. Whole class went up in ahs and oohs. And I walked out and she's like, "You're done." I'm like, "I'm done. I'm starting my own thing." And that's when we started LSP.
So LSP ran its course. Almind ran its course. When did you start writing this project I heard you've been working on and thinking about the yin and yang of Fang, as you call it, and fully conceptualizing the Kung Fu Vampire band?
I had became Kung Fu Vampire based on some friends and I was sitting in the backyard. We kind of were talking, it was another psychedelic evening, and talking about Kung Fu movies and vampire movies and making them. And they were like, "Yo, you're the Kung Fu Vampire, man. Like you emanate, everything that is. It is you." And, it was going to be an LSP project at first called the Kung Fu Vampire Satire. And it was going to be a theme album in which half the beats were Asian style influence instruments and the other half were vampiric, gothic, call it what you will. Okay. So I began production on that. Sir, not far from where I live in a different, sub-city. Yeah, so it was going to be a theme project. I got with this producer, and he was just he's an East Coast dude, and he was such a perfectionist that the project ended up taking a lot longer than expected. It took us a couple years, the Bloodbath Beyond album. And by the time we got halfway through it, it was like, man, I'm the Kung Fu Vampire. These other dudes ain't really down with me. I'm here alone again with this producer again for a second project again. Like, this is a Kung Fu Vampire project. And we went from calling it the Kung Fu Vampire Satire to the Kung Fu Vampire. And then Kung Fu Vampire just became my name. And with the release of Bloodbath Beyond, it was a CD DVD.
You're really heavily Asian influenced with the style and the, you know, behind the group. Are there any movies or maybe comics in particular that you remember like sparking this style within you?
So I was never a comic book guy. I'm still not. I respect it and like it. I'm just not into it. I don't read stuff like that, but it's cool. I love the art. But movie wise, there was all kinds, you know, the Iron Monkey right off the bat. Iron Monkey. That was something that I just was drawn to. God, there's so many. There was definitely a bunch of Kung Fu movies that were just blowing my mind at the time. You know what I mean?
Well, there was a lot of re-releases going on at that time as well. I remember Wu-Tang and RZA had bought the rights to a bunch of the old Hong Kong Kung Fu movies and were re-releasing them with new dubs on them.
That's dope. Yeah, there was something we wanted to do actually with that DJ Liquid guy. Is we found out after we had named, you know, the group, the artist Kung Fu Vampire, we wanted to take Kung Fu Vampire-esque movies and re-release them and remix them and comedically throw me in there and put our music over it. And we had actually contacted some companies and they were down. But again, without a investor, those things start to just not seem realistic, you know?
Money waters the tree of opportunity sometimes.
That's the story of my career, my friend.
So you got Womb to the Tomb out, or Womb Till Tomb. Bloodbath Beyond is out. The band has established themselves. You're in the Silicon Valley. You're in the Bay. You're doing these shows. 3 times Silicon Valley Band of the Year, a feat no one has ever duplicated. What went into that? Were you guys just playing everywhere all the time? Did you finally meet a group of people who had your same drive, work ethic, and ambition? Is that how you were able to basically become the scene in your city?
It was a matter of just finding the right people, and it took it took until 2010, and a lot of those people we found out had different issues that were not gonna work for us. But you know, when we weren't overly playing in the area, we were just doing quality shows. We would do the Viper Room, we would do the Whiskey A Go Go, we did the Playboy Mansion in 2006, which nobody's really done. You know what I mean? That's a very rare thing, except for commercial groups. Yeah, the Playboy thing was earlier, and that was for my neighbor's birthday. I think it was his 30th birthday party or 40th.
Hell of a neighbor. Hell of a fucking neighbor.
Oh, he's the man. He actually, if you go to stripperpole.com, that's him. He invented the removable stripper pole. So for all you hoes out there who need a stripper pole in your trunk, go.com and you can get one. But yeah, he was doing it big in that arena, and they threw this party for him at the Playboy Mansion, and there we are. We were hired.
Now, when did you get involved with Darren Boozman, the director of Saw 3, the director of Repo? Because I know you did a couple of gigs for him.
Yes.
As well as, I think, provided some songs for one of his releases? Or a song?
A couple of them now, yeah. Our song was in Mother's Day from 2012 or 13, and then our song was in his later movie now called Tales of Halloween, which was released on Halloween last year, which did really well. And it's on Netflix, I think, still. It was on Netflix the last year. I don't know if it's still there.
So you guys have had a relationship. How did you... Oh, it's almost collaborative in nature. How did you guys link up?
He hit me up as a fan before he blew up. Right when he was doing like Static X and Cypress Hill music videos and stuff, he hit me up like, yo, I'm a fan. Like, I love what you do. Let's make a video. We still haven't made that video. We laugh about it. We haven't made a video because he blew up and directed those Saw series and all this other stuff. So we just stayed friends, and I'm supposed to be a lead or a major actor in one of his new movies coming out. And it keeps getting pushed back because other new movies get thrown his way. So he's doing really well. He's a cool cat, man. I love Darren.
Well, that's real good that you were able to link up with somebody and also watch his rise along with yours, and you guys be able to work together and collaborate here and there. Dead Sexy came out in 2009, and that's really when you had your first run in with anything Juggalo culture. You went on a short West Coast run with Esham that I heard was arranged by Daniel Jordan.
So they hit me up because I was running a club at the time, like a really nice club in San Jose. And I was throwing shows, and they hit me up and said, yo, you should do something with this Esham guy. His stuff is similar to yours. And I ended up making that, and a couple other shows happened. And I ended up jumping on those.
So did you see any Juggalos at the time? Were these shows attended by people in face paint? Did you have any interaction with a Hatchet Man during this time frame?
That was the very first time I'd ever seen a face painted person at my shows. Was June 21st, 2009.
And that's how you got put on to Mars and Mad Insanity, which led to you going.
Mars called me and said, hey, this is Mars. What's up, dog? Like, his voice was so crazy, man. He's like, you know, I want to get on these shows. Like, you know, what's cracking? And I was like, hell yeah. And I looked him up right then and there, and I was like, all right, this dude's fits the bill. You know what I mean? So,
exactly.
He came out and rocked those 3 shows with us, and we've been homies ever since.
Then you did a tour with him and Project Born.
Yeah, and some guy named B-Side. Oh man. That was a trip. That was the very first time I had stepped outside of California for a show.
And those were, I mean, I can imagine being in a van with Mars and Project Born on the road must be the type of thing that you need a new liver after.
Luckily, we were not in the same car with Project Born. We already had a wrapped Suburban, and so Mars hopped in with us, and it was just my band and Mars. But one thing I remember that was so funny is Mars had instead of a text ding for getting a text messages, every time he got a text, back then I wasn't texting like that. You know what I mean? He was texting. He was ahead of the game in the texting all the time world. But every time he got a text, it would go, tink, tink, mail, motherfucker. And so he was just sitting in the back of the Suburban the whole time, every 5 minutes, mail, motherfucker, mail, motherfucker. And it was a crack up, man. That was my intro to Mars.
Yeah, and I know he must have been able to put you on game as far as Juggalos and this particular scene, because by then he was already kind of entrenched with us.
He was way deeper, yeah, right? He had been involved in it for a decade, as far as I knew. I mean, I'm not sure. You'd have to ask him exactly.
So was he at the time, was Mars more or less your Juggalo Sherpa?
He did, and then it quickly switched to George Lahakis. So, you know, it was him, George. Yeah, Mars was definitely my tunnel runner. You know, he was definitely my tunnel runner, bro. Like, he knew everything about that shit, and he still does. You know, he still does.
That's what I'm talking about. And then, so shortly after that Mars PJB tour, you went on the Twisted Slaughterhouse tour.
So did the Slaughterhouse, came home, immediately set up my own tour, booked it myself, called the Dead for Life.
Slaughterhouse was in excess of 50 dates, wasn't it? That was a huge tour.
It was 48 dates with like 1,000+ every night, every city. They were just, the numbers then were insane.
Was this your first time on the East Coast, in the Midwest, in Chicago? Were these your first times in these cities?
Yep, that was the very first time, man. Slaughterhouse set it off for me.
Well, that's excellent. As we see Twisted still giving opportunity to people on the come up. You know, after you got off that Twisted tour, and that was in 2009, or are we talking more 2010?
That was 2010. And then summer 2010, I got invited to the Gathering, and I had a great slot. I was like in the middle slot on the Freak Show tent, and the buzz for me was crazy coming off that Slaughterhouse tour. So I booked this Dead for Life tour with Mars and Liquid Assassin, and they came out with me. We rocked on our way to and from the Gathering. And on the way home from the Gathering is when I found out my girlfriend was pregnant via a phone call. So it was crazy, man.
So, and the whole Slaughterhouse tour thing with Twisted came about because you had a video come out in 2010 called I Count, and it ended up on the Fago Lovers front page.
Some Juggalo, yeah, it was 2009. It's a Juggalo random. I'd love to know who it was. I don't know. I have the screenshot, but some Juggalo who identified with what I was doing liked it, posted it on Fago Lovers, sent it to them. They posted it, and Monoxide saw the video and said, yo, how can we get a hold of this Kung Fu vampire guy? And George is like, I guess George's like, I know him. I think I can get a hold of him. So they got a hold of me and brought me on the tour. It was a wrap. And that was, again, goes back to like not pandering. They just were like, yo, this is crazy. This is going to go over well with Juggalos. This shit is so different. You know what I mean? So,
but it wasn't identical, and it wasn't lifting anything from the existing culture.
yeah, it was a cousin. It was a weird trip hop industrial face
Unique
painting cousin. Yeah.
Now, I know you said you lost the paint after that with respect to the Juggalos. Now, prior to that, did you go to any sort of crazy lengths to sell this vampire character? Other than the outfit and the paint, did you like maybe not go out during the day at shows, for example, and not be seen till the sun went down? Was there anything that you were doing to sell it?
The last thing you said was why one of the main reasons why I got named Kung Fu Vampire, because I actually never did go out during the day. You know what I mean? So that was just a real thing that was known about me. Waking up at 2, sitting in the studio all day. The nightfall comes, I'll go grab dinner. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't outside during the day. You know, you didn't catch me out there really like that. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things. I wouldn't say necessarily to sell the idea, but I was just infatuated. I'm infatuated with everything. If I really like something, I get serious about it. You know, one thing I love is interior design, architectural design. So I'm constantly addicted to fixing up my house. And
I heard.
Yeah, and so then
Mr. Gray told me all about it.
Yeah, Gray's the man. He's a woodworking master. But I had a coffin early on, and you know, I had a limousine, and I had a 59 and 60 Cadillacs, basically Batmobiles, and you know, I live that life for real. You know, that's my style. Night walker.
So you're a journeyman at this point when it comes to tours. So I mean, really, between 2010 when you went on that Slaughterhouse tour and 2016 where you released Look Alive, which debuted number 55 on the Billboard Rap chart, number 91 on the top 200. That was your first chart visit, correct?
Yeah, I know that Love Bites made the charts on iTunes, but Look Alive made Billboard and iTunes, and I think it got as high as 48 on iTunes, which we didn't put $1 into promotion, no label backing, no nothing. So I'm happy with that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. 100.
Strange. Yeah, you throw that album on Backswar, Strange, or M&E, it's going to be top 5 all the way across, in my opinion.
With you being 100% independent, any kind of fucking chart number is impressive as shit. And I mean those years are your grinder years. You were constantly on the road. You were constantly dropping new material, either in the form of your own projects or features. When'd you get linked up with Team Backpack? I know they were local to the Bay. I've seen a few Team Backpack ciphers, including you in the Hunger Pains cipher with Battle Rap Lord Dirtbag Dan, Future Magic Ninja, Gmo Skee, and of course Strange Music's Recognized. But I've heard a story of a Kung Fu Vampire, Snack the Ripper, Mac Mall cipher that I can't find. So maybe you can tell me about I can't find it.
It didn't come up.
I went looking on.
They took it down. That's weird.
I put Team Backpack, Kung Fu Vampire. The only one that comes up is Hunger Pains.
I connected with them in early 2013. I think it was Cross-Eyed Joe and Jeff Turner.
Shouts to Josh. Me and Josh don't get along, but shouts to Josh, Cross-Eyed Joe. He's one of the originators of this street teamer shit. He's one of the originators of all this street teamer shit.
That dude could sell a ham sandwich to a pig, bro. He's a salesman. Fucking Jeff Turner, you know, is one of my dudes, man. I was working at clubs very young, throwing shows. That was what I did. Long story short, I'll keep it short because some of you know about it, some of you don't. But I caught a federal drug case in 2005, 5, something like that. 2005. Caught a federal drug case. And it was pretty serious. I was looking at 5 to 10 years in prison. And the feds ended up dropping the case based on just whatever, insignificant evidence. It was different than anything I'd ever experienced. And with my past indiscretions, because of only being state, you know, it's a different type of thing. But I think it went through channels and they said, we're not fucking with this. This is small time. You know what I mean? And so they dropped it and the DA of the state picked it up. and was very adamant about me and my gang involvement, whatever they're, you know, they always like to paint a bigger, crazier picture than the truth. That's just how it is. We could get into that going into Will Sigler even too. That can be later, but you know, they always paint these crazy pictures. And this DA made me look like I was John Gotti to the judge, and really had it out for me. So I had to get a legitimate job. I had to show income, start a corporate. I did a bunch of things. I had a team of people that helped me, some elderly pimps that I know, like some real smart homies of mine that are in the financial advising and all that, certified public accountant. We set all that up, and I started throwing shows. And I had been throwing shows since. I still do. Now, obviously, with the Kung Fu thing being taken off so much, I can't really do it anymore. I just do one a month. But, you know, I was doing like almost 4 or 5 a month during the trial, when I was on trial. And so I've been throwing shows since, and that's how I met Jeff Turner. That's how I met the promoter for Isham. A lot of this stuff is a big circle of musical love. So met Jeff, and Jeff was, you know, he's just a local artist with some fire under his breath. You know what I mean? Never had nothing but fire and energy. You know, there was no fan base. There's no shows. And I still don't know that there is a fan base necessarily. Now that years have passed, everyone knows Jeff Turner is a motherfucking spitter. But as far as like who's getting Jeff Turner tattoos and showing up to show, I don't know what he's doing. I just know he's a G, and he's my
I know. I personally love Jeff Turner. That was somebody who I always saw. That was, like I said, an MC's MC. Very positive dude. All about the work. Very lyrical. No slouch. No. But like you said, I mean, I come back east, and unless you're involved in the underground hip hop, you don't know who Jeff Turner is. Which, heads, if you don't know who Jeff Turner is, you fucking up. Make sure you go peep his shit. YouTube his name. It'll be worth it.
Yeah, man. See, and you'll notice with me, like, I'll give MCs props. I feel like I'm one of the few MCs that's not scared of anybody. Like, that's why I'm on this tour with LOCKSMITH. You know, a lot of people don't want to even be next to LOCKSMITH on a track, on a tour. They're just like, I don't want nothing to do with that dude. He's so insanely dope. And I'm just not scared of anybody. I feel like the fire I'm breathing is its own thing. I feel like the spits and the lyricism is there. And so you'll hear me often give props to my Magic Ninja homies, give props to Jeff Turner, my team, and all these people, Gorilla Voltage. Nobody intimidates me, bro. You know what I mean? And if you're a good person and a good spitter, I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna tell people about you and promote you. And that's something I know a lot of MCs don't do because they're haters and they're scared. I'm gonna come out and say it. If you're dope, you're dope.
Well, that was the one thing. I mean, I have problems with Team Backpack on my own, but the one thing that their organization did expose me to were just a crop of the most unique, some of the hardest spitting MCs, especially from the West Coast, especially from your area. Overall experience with them. What was your overall experience with them? I know you.
So,
I know you didn't do a cipher at one point because you didn't like the beat.
Oh, you heard about that? Or did I tell you about that?
You told me about that. I saw you that day.
Okay. So I met them through Jeff and Cross-Eyed Josh. Remixing his name. Set it up. Cross-Eyed Josh actually set up that Snack the Ripper Mac Mall Kung Fu cipher, but I brought Mac Mall. So I called Mac Mall, told him he should do it. And Josh connected with Snack. What a crazy cipher. I mean, what a fucking, I'm not going to say star-studded, but goddamn, has there ever been a cipher really that crazy up until recent times with stuff like the Joel Mad, you know, things.
Well, that one I mean, like I said, I've been looking for it, but the lineup alone reads to me unique, street, and you know what I mean? It's like hard. It's a very unique mixture.
In the cipher, an Indian cat that is not crossing my name I don't know if he's from India, but he's straight Indian with a turban, real nice guy. They cut him out because he didn't bring the fire, apparently. You literally had dude from San Jose, Vampire. You had Mac Mall, OG, dope-ass MC from Vallejo. You got Snack the Ripper from Canada. And you had the dude from India. I mean, talk about the world in one.
Yeah.
Fucking side.
But you're saying they cut them. Cut him.
Cut the Indian dude. It didn't show up. Apparently he maybe got nervous. You know, it was a live one take thing because it was one of the first Mission Underground.
Well,
Was in
that's what they
13.
like to say. Now they do things live, but as far as one take is concerned, that's not the case. And it's funny you bring up the Joel Ortiz cipher and someone getting cut out, because we all remember Mad Child getting booed the fuck off stage for attempting to read his cipher bars off his phone.
I wish I was there.
Yeah, I was there.
I was on tour at the time. I wish I was there, bro.
That was a good Mission Underground. I mean, they booked me to come speak at their event. I believe it was in 15, maybe. And that was the year with the Joel Ortiz thing. And that's where my problem stemmed from, was that Joel Ortiz.
The verse that you guys bought or something. Right?
Already paid for the verse. Like, we own publishing on that verse. Like, how you going to do that? But that's I always was torn about whose problem really was it. Was it their problem or Joel Ortiz's? And I just know how I would treat another MC who would have used a verse from the same guy, same verse. You know what I mean? I tried to hold their organization to that.
The organization. This is how I feel about it. It was definitely Joel Ortiz bad, but then if the organization knows about it and still publishes it, then it becomes 50-50. Then it's both of them. Until that point, Team Backpack, it's just a mistake. And this has happened before with that dude who was stealing everybody's rhymes. Team Backpack didn't know.
He's from your area. I've been trying to find out how to track his ass down. Task one. He's from your area.
I think he disappeared, bro.
I would hope so. That was the greatest tale of hip-hop thievery ever. It's funny you say, because it all goes in with your general attitude to show love all the time, and you will receive that love back. I mean, lots of MCs have passed through your aura of influence. Gorilla Voltage and Gmo Skee being the two most recent examples of guys who kind of came up under you in a way. What is how important is it to you to help the growth of these newcomers, especially guys you vibe with? And what is the best piece of advice you've ever imparted to somebody or received from somebody?
With Gmo, for my involvement with him, I met him through Team Backpack and we instantly vibed out. And, on that tour, in fact, we had buy-on opportunities left and right. I mean, me and Rec and Dirt, you can imagine, thousands of dollars. But I decided to bring on Gmo and pay Gmo to come to that tour, which I believe I was told was his first U.S. tour. And he's just, dude, that's my dude, man. He's got my back. I got his back. It's what's cool is there's no business involved. It's just yo, you're the homie. I'm the homie. It is what it is. And I like what he's doing. I think it's fun. It's a totally different approach to lyricism than myself on every single level. For instance, Gmo, I don't like when people say one trick pony because it has negative connotation. But yes. Gmo has one specific style. He has one style. See the Gmo, it's the same flow, it's the same style.
But it's filth. It's not one style that already existed.
It's him. It's his own thing. And people try to compare to Jaren. It's because you're racist and you can't tell the difference between two black people in fuzzy hats, you fucking faggots. They're not similar. Spit grimy, you know what I mean? They're both dope as fuck. But stop being a faggot, a racist faggot, and saying that he's a Gmo ripoff because you just see a black person in a fuzzy hat. You're a bitch.
Is that what they've been saying recently? I haven't seen too much of the Gmo hate,
bro.
But I'm trying to ignore it because the thing is, the first time I see some racist shit in one of these fucking comments, I'm gonna lose my mind because that ain't what this is supposed to be about at all.
It's funny. I do read Gmo comments once in a while because he's one of the few channels I'm subscribed to, and the comments I have seen that piss me off say stuff like, you know that you're Monoxide's little nigger fucking joke show, shit like that. I'm like, wow, bro. If I would have ever heard someone say that in person, they're getting choked the fuck out.
Dead that.
To me, you're going to sleep around me. You say anything like that, first of all. Second of all, I have seen the Jaren Benton thing. Oh, you're a Jaren Benton knockoff. What, because they're both aggressive rappers with dark skin and fuzzy hats? That's just bullshit, bro. Gmo been rocking that hat. And before I brought him out on tour, did have a buzz. He was doing things. He did have people that fucked with him. So for people to say, oh, Twisted brought up Gmo, oh, Kung Fu Vampire brought up Gmo. Nah, bro, he was already buzzing. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Gmo been buzzing.
Oh, I agree. I mean, The first time
Well,
I saw
keep
him
using my
live,
channel.
the first time I saw him live was on your tour, but I was already well familiar with him. And I spoke to him last weekend, and I said, you could literally do a half hour of nothing but your cipher verses. That is how deep that man's catalog is. His catalog is ridiculously deep.
Oh yeah, he's got as many songs as me, and I've been doing it 10 more years than him. So, bro, right there, you know what I mean?
You go, man. Hard work, dedication, focus, and drive. Exactly the type of thing that you showed throughout your career. But what about GV? Because I know GV, especially, I won't say it's a kung fu vampire creation, but it was certainly Fang a little bit.
So that was a totally different scenario. And to finalize the Gmo thing, all I'll say is this: I just hope Gmo gets me on a track. I've been lagging on getting him on a track because I want a specific sound that I know he's into. You know what I mean? I hope he gets me on a track so people can see two different completely styles in one. You know what I mean? Which you kind of got to see on that outlined and chalk track with the whole MNE lineup. They've got a wide variety of lyricism there. They're very different, everybody. You know?
It's a cornucopia. It's a cornucopia of fucking sound.
Variety's the spice of life, right? One day, lemon herb tilapia for dinner. The next day you go get some sushi, you go get a beef, you go get a fucking New York steak. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with music and lyricism. That's why I always trip out when people call me horrorcore. I'm like, bro, have you listened to my catalog? Like, this is not horrorcore. It's just trip hop, funk, singing. I'm like singing their shit about like so spiritual songs. It's like, because I have a song called Dead Girls Don't Say No, I'm horrorcore. Well, I guess Rob Zombie's horrorcore. I guess In This Moment's horrorcore. I guess every punk rock band is horrorcore. Like, it's weird, bro. I'm all about the variety. I feel like I'll always tell people this. Dope or not is subjective, right? It's subjective.
Exactly.
If you like it, you like it. Don't, you don't. Whether I'm diverse or not is not subjective. I am one of the most diverse MCs in hip hop. For sure, the most diverse one in this underground, more than Tech, ICP, Twisted. I'm bringing love songs.
You're definitely the most musical. By that, I believe, I mean, I look at you and I see a musician. You aren't a rapper. You're not purely an MC.
And I had to put down I appreciate that. I had to put down a lot of the musical instruments because I'm being judged as a rapper, right? Because I'm on stage as a lyricist, as a singer. So I've put down the instruments and the production in recent years on what I'm being judged on and what's most important. And that's bringing those fire lyrics. That's why a lot of people lately say, damn, Kung Fu's improved a lot. This shit's crazy improved. Well, it's just because I'm focusing on only the raps, you know?
Well, it's because you're hanging out with people like Gorilla Voltage, I'm sure, and guys that are setting another bar for you by which to set your own bar too. Friendly competition, friendly competition. Hanging out with guys.
What was that last thing you said?
Oh, just being around guys that help you set new bars for yourself by setting new bars out there in the game. Guys like GV, guys like Gmo, guys that are really setting a bar. They help you up your game. It's friendly competition.
You know, I wish I hung out with them and some other people more because I feel like my bars would be even better because those dudes are all my homies, but I am kind of an introvert these days. As good as I am when I'm out there, as friendly as I am when I'm out there, I don't get out there enough. I don't hang out. I don't have people over other than Mr. Gray and Clockwork, and they can tell you they don't come over a lot, you know? They came over for my daughter's birthday. I just need to get out there more and be kicking it with lyricists more because I agree that just being around great lyrics and being around great MCs. But as far as Gorilla Voltage, it was a totally different thing than Gmo. I basically I helped them out when no one else did. You know what I mean? I took a liking to these guys when no one else did. They were another 1,000 to 1,500 MCs from San Jose, Gilroy, Bay Area. You know what I mean? There's thousands here. But for me, I went back far with Gray, and he just had a spark to him that I liked personality-wise. His music wasn't there rap-wise because this dude is such a talented musician, guitar player, singer, metal growling king. You feel me?
Yeah, no, trust me. I heard them warming up this past weekend. I know about the growling. I know how much growling goes into what they do.
prior to running back into him in early 2012 at a car show, you know, we had done shows when we were younger, and he was in a rock band, and we would play together. You know, I was Kung Fu Vampire still, and he was in a band called Reaction 31 playing guitar, I believe. Don't quote me. Pretty sure he played guitar and maybe screamed. But, you know, him and I always got along. It was like we'd see each other, and he was always like, what's up, Kung Fu? And he has funny memories of me. He's like, that Kung Fu's always the dude pulling up in the Lexus, selling some weed real quick, saying what's up, slapping hands, and then leaving to go, you know, rock a show. That's what he said to me. I started laughing. But, you know, those guys, they would have, you know, all the talent in the world, you and I both know, is not going to, it's not going to do anything for you if you don't have some sort of push. Just, it's a who you know kind of world, man. Unfortunately, it's money and a who you know. And those guys, with kids and things, the talent, there was no chance for them unless somebody stepped up and said, these motherfuckers are cool. They're good at what they do. They're respectful. They have every trait that an MC coming up under another MC should have.